Good afternoon, everybody. Hearty welcome to this event. Distinguished guests, respected panelists, and esteemed participants. It gives me immense pleasure to welcome you all to these important discussions on From Conflict to Crop, Safeguarding India's Food Security Amid West Asia Disruptions. Before I say something, I'd like to heartily welcome here Mr. Siraj Hussain, former Union Secretary, Minister of Agriculture, Government of India, who has joined from Singapore. Hearty welcome, sir.
Thank you.
I also heartily welcome Professor Ajitabo Rai Chaudhary, PhD, Chairperson Emeritus Economic Affairs National Committee, BCC&I, former Professor and Head of the Department of Economics, Jadavpur University. Thank you, sir, for joining here. Dr. Bokul Joshi, President and Chief Operating Officer, T-Stains, because of last-minute change, he could not join today. So, we will be meeting him in subsequent events also. Hearty welcome to Mr. Suraj Agarwal, Chief Executive, Rice Villa, sitting left to me. Hearty welcome to you, sir. And Dr. Suresh Motwani, General Manager, Solidarit. Thanks for joining this event from your office, actually. I think you are in Madhya Pradesh, I think. Bhopal, I believe, if I'm not wrong. Thank you, sir, for joining this thing. And also, distinguished guests from different institutions, research organizations, those who could make it possible, because you know Calcutta is now struggling with a lot of challenges also, no less than West Asia conflict. It is also a lot of challenges there, but still you could make it. We are obliged to all of you. At a time when geopolitical developments in West Asia are reshaping global supply chains, we are reminded that agriculture today is no longer insulated from international events. What happens thousands of miles away has a direct bearing on our farmers' field, input costs, and ultimately the food on our plates. India's agricultural strength has always been its resilience. However, recent disruptions in fertilizer supplies, energy markets, and logistics have highlighted certain structural vulnerabilities. This calls for a shift in our approach from managing crisis to building long-term resiliences. We must ask ourselves some critical questions. How do we reduce dependency on external inputs? How do we make our farming system more sustainable and resource efficient? And how do we ensure that our farmers remain protected and prosperous in an increasingly uncertain world, actually? This forum brings together a diverse group of policymakers, industry leaders, researchers, and practitioners. I am confident that through meaningful deliberations, we will be able to identify actionable pathways, whether in strengthening domestic capacities, embracing innovations, or fostering collaborative partnership. On behalf of the Bengal Chamber, I extend my sincere gratitude to all our speakers and participants for being part of this dialogue. Now, this is not just a moment of disruptions. It is a moment of decision. India must seize the opportunity to redesign its agri-food systems with resilience, sustainability, and self-reliance at the core. So on that background, this issue we like to discuss. About Bengal Chamber, I just like to say few words about Bengal Chamber. Bengal Chamber of Commerce and Industry, one of the oldest institutions of its kind, tracing its origin to 1833, has played a pioneering role in steering the evolution of commerce and industry in India. The Chamber reviewed the commented upon some of the most critical legislations of the country. The Chamber has stayed relevant close to 200 years of adapting to the changes and delivering to the need of the industry. The Chamber is deeply involved in areas like manufacturing and MSME, agriculture, rural development, infrastructure, shipping, logistics, trade fairs, trade promotions, healthcare, and many more. So here agriculture, rural development is playing a major role. So on that subjects, today we like to have a brilliant discussions and thought-provoking insights of these subjects. And our program will follow this way. First we will hear from the eminent speakers and then we will have a discussions from all the participants. So it is a pleasure to request Mr. Siraj Hussain, former Union Secretary, Ministry of Agriculture and Government of India, to start his comments. And we will first hear from you around 15 minutes of time. Then we will go for further discussions, sir. We welcome you to hear your thing.
Thank you. Good afternoon to all the participants. I am thankful to Bengal Chamber of Commerce for inviting me to this important event. I'm happy that you have found time in the middle of your SIR exercise, and there is so much of disturbance going on in West Bengal. In fact, I have written a piece on SIR in West Bengal in the Wire the other day. It was published 2 days back. Please have a look at that
Yes,
piece.
sir. We have seen it.
Yes. So, as far I will basically cover important subjects. One is the effect of shortfall in monsoon, and the other is the fertilizer situation. So, as far as the effect of monsoon is concerned, I will take that first. Uh, Monsoon in India uh, has generally been good in the last few years, and therefore we have sort of produced record high level of food grains and other commodities in the last few years, and um, it is after several years that we will be getting lower rainfall. Now, when I was Secretary Agriculture in 2014, 15, and 15, 16, we got drought-like conditions. So, for example, in 2014, we got only 88% of the long-term average of rainfall, monsoon rainfall. In 2015, we got 86%. So I'm quite familiar with the challenges posed by shortfall in monsoon rains. But the good news I would like to share with your participants is that even in 2014 and 2015, the loss of Kharif production was less than 2% in 2014 and about 3.6% in 2015. Despite a shortfall of about 14% in monsoon, the loss of production was less than 4% in 2015 and less than 2% in 2014. However, more impact was felt on Rabi crops because of lower soil moisture. So, if we take the total loss of production, Kharif and Rabi taken together, in 2014 it was 4.6%, and in 2015 it was 5%. We must also recall that in those years, the percentage of irrigated area in India was about 45%. Now, about 55% of area is under irrigation, and therefore we are better placed as far as irrigation is concerned. And therefore, even if the monsoon is deficient, we should not see much loss of production. One more point I would like to add about the monsoon is that this monsoon science of predicting is not very perfect. And even if our monsoon rains are not good in accordance with the long term average, there would be certain districts where the monsoon will be normal, there will be some districts where it will be deficient. And therefore, um, I do not see much cause for worry as far as production is concerned. Now, we are also sitting over huge stock of wheat and rice, and therefore we are quite well placed to face a little shortfall in production, even if certain states in rain-fed areas are impacted by lower monsoon. Uh, the other thing is that in the last 5 years or so, a number of climate-resistant varieties of seeds have been released by the ICAR. They have not been tested on a large scale because we had normal monsoon rainfall in the last few years. So this year, the efficacy of those um, varieties which have been released in recent years will be tested, and if they really prove to be good as claimed by the ICAR, then I think we would be very happy that our scientists have been able to develop varieties of seeds which are climate resistant. So this much I would like to say about the monsoon, that there is no reason for worrying too much about this. We will do well to conserve whatever moisture we get, whatever rainfall we get. In Rajasthan, the conservation of rainfall has been practiced for several years because Rajasthan used to have very deficient rainfall, but similar practices need to be adopted in other parts of India. And I hope that once the assembly elections are over, then our administration will find time to um, guide the farmers and rural areas, panchayats, etc., to take necessary steps for conserving the rainwater. The second issue I would like to discuss is uh, the situation of fertilizers. Now, in case of fertilizers, um, the largest quantum of fertilizer which is used is urea. Now, urea, we depend on import to the extent of about 20%. 20 to 25% of urea has to be imported. In case of DAP, we produce just about 40 to 50% of DAP, and we are dependent on imports for the balance quantity. In case of MOP, muriate of potash, we do not produce any quantity, and therefore we are completely dependent on imports. That is something which needs to be understood. Now, when the war started, there was shortfall in supply of LNG, which is the raw material for producing urea. However, our government was able to purchase LNG in the spot market, and now the urea plants are getting about 90% of the requirement of LNG for producing urea. When the war started, we were they were getting just about 60 to 70%, but now they are getting about 90% of their requirement of raw material, that is gas. So we started the Kharif crop year in April with a balance of 6 million tons of urea, and every month we are producing about 1.8 to 2 million tons. But even if we take a conservative figure of 1.8 million tons in April, May, June, July, August, then I do not think there should be great difficulty in meeting the overall Kharif demand of 18 million tons of urea. Also, we should be able to import urea from various countries. Our government would be talking to various countries. The only thing is that a recent tender of IPL has been floated for 2.5 million tons, and we got very high price, more than $1,000 a ton. So that was very high price, and which will mean that um, the government will the government burden of subsidy on urea and other fertilizers will substantially go up. Indonesia has offered to give us urea in this tender uh, because Indonesia has surplus. So I do not think that the supply of urea will be a problem. However, I think it would also be this crisis will also be used by our government to regulate and supply lower quantity of urea to those states where the consumption is very high as compared to the recommended dose. As far as DAP is concerned, it comes mainly from China, Oman, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Egypt, and Morocco. Most of these countries are not affected by the war on Iran, and therefore I do not think that DAP shortage will be there to any significant extent. Potash is imported from Canada, Russia, Belarus, and Israel, I don't think even these countries are impacted. Specialty fertilizers, micronutrients, etc., may be affected because they come usually from China, and China has imposed a ban on export. We are seeking, our government is seeking alternative sources, Russia, Jordan, Israel, etc. And there are also efforts to increase the domestic production. So on the whole, we can say that as far as supply of fertilizers for Kharif crop is concerned, I do not expect any significant shortfall. However, if the war continues and if Israel is bent upon destroying Iran and to do everything to change the regime in Iran, and if the US is influenced by Israel to that extent, then I think our Rabi crop will be affected, because in that case, the supply will continue to be affected. And one last point is that if the crude prices remain more than $100 a barrel, then I think once the assembly elections in West Bengal are over, the petrol prices and diesel prices may go up, which will cause food inflation across the board, as a lot of transportation is dependent on the prices of petrol and diesel. So that's it from my side. I would like to sum up by saying that as far as Kharif is concerned, despite the shortfall in monsoon, I do not expect that we will be very badly off. However, for Rabi, our performance will depend on the ending of the war on Iran. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hussain. I think is a wonderful deliberations. So it is a big hope from you that in spite of lot of communications by the meteorology department and SkyMate and others, it is not that worrisome as it was. You have mentioned that during your period also there was hardly 4 to 4.5% reduction took place in the production. So I think that is a good informations from your side. And fertilizers availability should not be that constrained if war does not prolong further. In that case, it will be more or less under control. Only thing is that cost of subsidy may increase, which is ultimately has the impact on the exchequer in any case actually. And another one is the fuel and pricing might get upwards and inflations might take up in short to medium terms. So these are some of the points. I think many people here have noted down their questions. So we will come back to again, sir, once we finish with the other speakers actually. Thank you for your valuable comments actually.
Thank you.
Now I'll request Professor Ajitabu Rai Chaudhary, Chairperson Emeritus Economic Affairs National Committee, BCC&I, former professor and head of the Department of Economic, Jadavpur University, and many more things. If I continue those things, I think it will take a long time. But I have noted down few of the points from there. He was a head and coordinator of Center for Advanced Studies, Department of Economics, Jadavpur University, Kolkata, as well as former Dean, Faculty of Arts, Jadavpur University. He also held the chair professorship of the Planning Unit, Jadavpur University, instituted by the S12 Planning Commission of India. He is also served as Emeritus Professor and Head of Economics Department, as well as Dean, School of Liberal Arts and Cultural Studies of Adams University, Calcutta. He was a visiting faculty at Indian Statistical Institute, ISI, Calcutta, Calcutta University and Indian Institute of Foreign Trade. He had undertaken several projects from UNSCAP, ADB, World Bank, UNDP, PEB, GDN, many more things. So, sir, thankful for your presence. We'd like to hear your views on the topics of today.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chakraborty, for a generous introduction. And economists are in an unenviable position that we are neither agricultural scientists nor we are in that matter all economists are agricultural economics. But as you know, economists can comment on everything. That's our advantage. We can talk on everything. But let me try to give you some idea where I am a little concerned about what's happening in the West Asian and what really matters to us. Now, from the economics point of view, we have basically two aspects on which we look at. One aspect I will touch first and then go to the other aspect on which we already had some deliberations. See, if the cost of production of a basket of food, which is important for the common working class for that matter, and this is basics of economics for the substantial and stable development of a nation. Ultimately, we have to move towards non-agricultural sector, and agriculture provides a food, cheap food. One statistic shows that in case of Maharashtra, cost of meals have increased by 65%, while wage of casual laborers have increased by 37%. Average salary of regular salaried workers have increased by 28%. That's the worrisome point. So if you look at the what's happening due to the West Asia crisis, this costs of food basket will increase. The good point, one point which I should mention, that the weight of food in average basket of somebody who is living in rural India or urban India has gone down. It's not that people are eating less, food in terms of deprivation. They've shifted towards some other things like milk and milk products have gone up. Beverage, refreshment, processed food has gone up. Vegetables to a certain extent has gone up. So core things, cereals is substituted by that. So first of all, if this West Asia crisis persists, what will be affected is food. Basically the prices of, say, the crops which are intensive on certain inputs like fertilizer. So the crops which, that includes obviously food crops, rice, wheat, etc. Where we have this input cost, one of them is the fertilizer cost. Other than that, obviously, if the fuel prices go up, you have problems with transport cost. Sooner or later, the transport cost will be a big issue for us. I'm talking of the domestic market, us, who buy and, go and buy food from the local markets. That will be affected. And then the other cost which will be affected is the farm machinery cost. If you look at the, mechanization is slowly happening in Indian agriculture. So if the mechanization goes on, then obviously many of this depends on diesel. Not everything goes by electricity. And if the diesel cost goes up in some way or other, after all, right now it's held back. But if the world bleeds in terms of oil prices, petroleum prices, how long we can manage it? After all, every government has a limit up to which they can. If the worldwide Brent and WTI, the prices are going up, how long the diesel prices will be held back? And how long the farm machinery cost will be kept down? All of this will build into our cost of basic cereals and to a certain extent vegetables and others. So that's the difficulty which we have in mind. Now, a lot has been said already about the fertilizer, as we have heard. And there are two aspects to that. After all, we have fertilizer of different types, and we talked about nitrogenous fertilizer, of which urea is the main thing. We have phosphatic fertilizer, we have potassic fertilizer. Potassic fertilizer is not produced in India. It's all imported. Urea, obviously we depend on Gulf, no doubt, but then the urea, the import has come down because there are a lot of fertilizer factories which have come up. In last 5 years, 5 years, if you look at it, the new production units which have come up. That's the silver lining of all this. But the government wants to move towards NPK, diammonium phosphate, or potassic fertilizer, just because they want to maintain the soil of health of the soil. So the policy is to move away from too much use of urea and go towards this. And then obviously import dependence is a point of concern for us. And the government policy, we know they are moving towards due kind of subsidy and other policies to move away of too much use of urea on the soil. So one has to think about that, what can be done about it. Now, fertilizer production itself, if you look at it, is 90%, requires gas, some kind of a gas, LNG or whatever. It's run by that. Phosphoric acid, these are all imported items. So cost of production of fertilizer within India is also going up. We always talk about import, but import composition has changed. So there is a policy, the imports of those fertilizer which is coming down, the government has a policy to move away from that to a large extent. So we are going for those fertilizer maybe on which we depend a lot, on imports. So it's a balance of policy is very crucial. And then domestic production is going up, but that depends on LNG, phosphoric acid, which are imported, 90%. So even if we build up a lot of fertilizer factories, where from their raw materials will come? Depends on imports again. So catch-22 position. We must be careful about that. Just because we are building up factories of fertilizer doesn't mean in the long run, if the crisis goes on, this will save us in the long run. But in the short run, we have enough stock where fertilizer produced in India has gone up a lot, and that will not affect the, as you said, kharif production. But in Rabi production, we have to think about it. It all depends what's happening in the mind of those who are fighting the war, right? So God knows what will happen there. Now, the government is just, as an economist, I must inform that and all of you must be knowing this, the government has changed the base of calculation of inflation. And as a result, when the government has changed the whole base towards the consumer price index, the base is now 2024. So whatever is the basket of goods, the weight is calculated according to the weight which is observed in 2024. So that the food and beverage, their percentage has come down from 45% to 36%. So apparently if you look at the, how much will be the inflation? If the food prices go up, that will not affect too much because the base has changed. So in that sense, we will observe that the price rise is somewhat mitigated to a certain extent due to this change in the weightage of food in our inflation basket. So apparently it might be that if we had gone to the old system of calculation, the impact of the West Asia crisis would have been blown much bigger. But due to the change of base, it will be a little bit mitigated. That's the technical part of it. Now, the last thing which I want to mention is about exports. When I was hearing about all this, the details about the export. Now, as we know, agri-export is going up over time. So, many things. We hear about basmati, non-basmati rice, marine exports, buffalo meat. There's a lot of agri-exports whose percentage is going up. And India has a lot of potential in that. But then the whole point is, if the cost of production goes up, how much comparative advantage India can hold? Ultimately, it's a competition with our competitors. How much they will produce at what cost and how much we will produce at our cost. We had a great potential. Things are rising for agri-exports. But then this creates an issue. And whether our competitors somewhere in China, Bangladesh or whatever, whether they are having a lesser impact of West Asia crisis or we are having this. Or all of us having similar kind of crisis. A lot of calculation have to be done. Futuristic forecast has to be made. But point of concern, no doubt. A field which is potentially a very good field, in terms of different kinds of agri-processed exports, agricultural goods exports, that's something which might be affected. And remember, we talk about food security. Our exports go to, say, a lot of non-basmati rice goes to African countries. What will happen to them? They depend so much on India, for that matter. And there will be the worst hit. So food security, if we think globally, if India is hurt, a number of vulnerable countries, especially in Africa, will be hurt. As domestic customers, domestic consumers, I talked about what's going on. So we'll be hurt, no doubt, but there is a local aspect, there's a global aspect. And we, as a conscientious Indian citizen, must worry about that too. And about the import of agri-goods, agricultural goods, some of which are very important in our life, day-to-day life, for a common household, right? One of them all of us know, I mean, one of the biggest item which we import and which goes to everybody's cooking medium is vegetable oil. Something like more than 60% is imported of vegetable oil. And for health reasons or other, we are more inclined to go towards this vegetable oil to a certain extent. What will happen to the vegetable oil price? How much will it go up, or to all this crisis? And the difficult part is this: when a crisis comes, countries become inward looking. Now, just to tell you, just to give you an example, India imports sulfuric acids, sulfur. India imports sulfur, 2 million metric tons in the last year. Then we export 800,000 tons to China, for that matter. They need it to dissolve metals from ore. Now we will become inward looking. If it is costly and we can import less, we cannot export. That might happen to vegetable oil too. If their production goes up, Malaysia might say, Indonesia might say, we will not send so much oil to us, vegetable oil. That price will go up. It's not a direct effect, but indirect effect. So this is a jigsaw puzzle. If something is affected somewhere, then directly, indirectly it goes to somewhere else, then apparently we are not affected, but indirectly we are. And these just examples. Countries become inward looking whenever a crisis happens. They must first cater to their own population, and then they will think about what can be done to the export. And that affects our household, that affects our kitchen, common household kitchen. So let me finish with that. I'm not unduly worried about this. I think Indian government is trying their best to diversify, and just before I end, all of us know that what we need of the day is diversify the basket of importers. Essential. But it's easy said than done. I can diversify. Can I maintain the cost of import? Diversification on paper can be done. The other important thing is that we are talking about new technology to be introduced. Cannot be done overnight. We are talking about artificial intelligence in agriculture. And I had connected with some agricultural department somewhere, and there are so many talks about different kinds of artificial intelligence. We must reduce cost and increase productivity. I don't understand much about it, so I'm not delving into that. But there is a lot of scope of AI in agriculture. Drone technology. By drone technology, optimal use of fertilizer and water can be done, reducing the dependence to a large extent. Nano fertilizer, nutrient-based fertilizer, all this. Maybe a little long term. But the point is, something has to be done immediately, something has to be done medium term, something has to be done long term. But are we patient enough? There's something which goes to medium term, we get impatient to a certain extent. Can we manage our old kitchen, own cost of food? That thought will be there. So long term, we must think seriously, introducing technology, introducing diversification of our importers, very important. But then we must be patient enough. There will be trade-off, there will be some problems which will face, the LPG gas price has gone up. But it's one-time thing doesn't mean that it will never happen again. There can be a second round of increase if the war goes up. We all hope the war will end. And let me stop with that, with a notion, sort of hopes that the war will end in a reasonable time, and all these talks which we are doing will be there. Some pain will not vanish overnight. A war today will have its effect in next maybe almost a year for some of these commodities. But in the long run, we'll all be almost like we'll live and let others live. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Roy Chaudhary. I think you have highlighted very, very important points here. Like one is the escalation of the food pricing, escalations of the fuel cost. Then for fertilizer, domestic fertilizer productions, imports and raw materials might increase the cost of the fertilizer. Then another important point you have informed us that base year of inflation has been changed, which may not give the true inflection of the price change, but it is a big change actually. Then in the export competitiveness and in food security vulnerability, if India's food security gets deteriorated, African countries might suffer also. So on a holistic global perspective, this situation is very alarming. Thank you. We'll come back with you for the questions. Now, from the export point of view, I think I will request Mr. Suraj Agarwal, Chief Executive, Rice Villa. Mr. Agarwal is a dynamic entrepreneur and the CEO of the Villa Group, a rapidly growing name in India's agri-commodity sector. And he co-founded the group alongside his two brothers, building a diversified portfolio of brands, including Rice Villa, Food Villa, Rainwater, the Villa, and the Villa Research. And academically accomplished, Suraj holds prestigious qualification as a chartered accountant, company secretary, and MBA. He is recognized as one of the youngest individuals in India to achieve all 3 degrees by the age of 21 years, along with being a national level mathematics topper during the academic journey. So with all these talents, qualifications, experience, we'd like to hear you for coming 10 minutes about your experience on these things, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Jayanto, and thank you, Bengal Chamber of Commerce, for inviting us to speak in such a important topic. And I will not take much time, because the more knowledge has been given by the professor, so we are just the students of the professor. So rather than taking into what is the problem, I will just take into the point which actually the industry is facing, the problem where we are facing. So if you see, the West Asia conflict is affecting India indirectly. We are getting impacted in basically 3 parts. The first part is the logistic disruption. If you see, everybody has heard about the Strait of Hormuz, and that's all. So what is the impact? For example, from an exporter point of view, we are exporting from some port in Mumbai, Navi Sheva port. So what impacted that? Whatever export consignment was there in the port, that has got stuck due to war. That has got stuck due to conflict. Second, the fare, the freight, which we were paying for the transportation, has increased by up to 50 times. For example, from Mumbai to Dubai, the freight was $50 earlier for a 1 container. Right now they are demanding $2,500. That also without insurance. Sir must be knowing it very well. And over and above, we are also having a surcharge. If there is some issue and shipping company faces some issue, we have to pay the war surcharge. So ultimately, this logistic disruption is the one thing which has impacted the food crisis. The second is definitely the energy, as sir has very well explained, that how energy will impact our daily life. And from the food security point of view, it is impacting our transportation, how we are sending the food from one part to another part of the country. So, and the third part is also very well explained, is the fertilizer, because ultimately, as sir has said, that we are not facing issue in the Kharif crop, but definitely in the next Rabi crop. And that's a very big crisis that can happen for the food security. And these all 3 points I am saying from a very ground level business perspective. So, in nutshell, we can say that the food security of India is not only dependent by monsoon. Earlier, we used to think that monsoon is the main factor, but it also depends on how the Red Sea is behaving and how the international arena is behaving. So, how the India is exposed? India food security is exposed because of this West Asia conflict. The first point here is that the prices of transportation has increased, the prices of fuel has increased. And the more importantly, which we are missing, is the time taken for delivery from one place to other. For example, if my consignment is stuck in Mumbai port for 1 month, ultimately I am losing lot in my working capital. I am losing lot, when I mean it's the Indian exports. Indian export is losing lot of money in the working capital. That get unnoticed. People are thinking that prices are increasing. But ultimately, the uncertainty, the unpredictability of the market is impacting the business highly, more than what the prices are, increased prices are impacting us. It is the unpredictability. We don't know how that consignment will be delivered to in the future because of the uncertainty in the market. Now, if you see the input side, from the agriculture perspective, the price of fertilizer definitely will increase. As sir said, it is just the election which we are waiting for. Then definitely the transportation cost will increase because the fuel prices will ultimately impact the transportation cost for the food security. And one more point which every food company is facing is the cost of packaging, because that's generally you will not see in the news. For example, the BOPP or whatever plastic packagings are done, they are made from the energy oil. And if the oil prices have increased, their prices have also increased by approximately 30 to 40%. And ultimately that is impacting our overall delivery cost of the food packaging. So from the food security, the increase in prices can be stabilized, but unpredictability cannot be stabilized, because as a businessman, you don't know how your future consignment will go. You don't know what the commodity will behave in the future. So if you ask me from the export point of view, what I have explained, from the import point of view, our food security a lot depends in terms of the edible oil, in terms of the pulses we import from across the world. These two products are the essential commodity which we depend heavily on the imports from across the world. So if the logistic is not supported, if the transportation cost is not supported, definitely our food security as well as food prices will be impacted. Now, from the next perspective, if you ask me in very crude terms what we expect from the government, because that is a very important part of this meeting, that we all know how the world is behaving, but how the government can help the export sector or the India. So the first part is from the logistic. We believe as a group that the government should plan for the future for how we can have the alternate routes for the export. If not import, at least export. What alternate routes can be created which is not depend on any particular country, which is not depend on any particular region. And second, the increase in the freight cost. The government in short term should interfere with the shipping companies, and why they are charging $50 to $2,500 in a month. Definitely their price have increased, but other way if you see, they are blackmailing the people. So the government intervention is required there, because from a business perspective, whenever we are quoting any price to our importers across the world, we have to give the cost including freight. And if we have given suppose CIF price on the basis of $50 and today we have to pay $2,500, definitely that business is at risk. So government intervention is very much required there. From the fertilizer perspective, which I see a very big risk for the Indian agriculture, I think we should have diversification in the purchase, because if you see right now, we are very much dependent on China, Indonesia or few countries. So diversification is very important. And the next part is definitely Make in India, which we are already growing, as Professor Chaudhary has already told. So, and the third is the consistency in the government policy. What is happening from the industry perspective, that government is changing their export policy very fast without even informing the industry bodies. So if you ask me to ask the government, then I think the government should, before imposing any new policy in the export sector, government should first discuss with the industry, so that the businesses who have higher exposure in the different markets can plan their future and plan their business. And on the last, from a consumer perspective, I think consumer is not very much impacted by the increased prices, because somewhere government is subsidizing that, but consumer is very much impacting by the unpredictability of the availability of the production, whether we will get all the products in future or not. So that instability we have to take care. From this, I will close my point. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your valuable points. You have highlighted on logistic disruptions, then very much concerned about the loss of working capital by the exporters. Then predictability is a big challenge for that means visibility is poor. Then imports also will play a vital role, because disruptions in the logistics portions will have a impact on our import bill also. Then government should interfere particularly in the alternate routes of the export, as well as freight costs. They should also think about it. I think we will take questions in the coming session. Before we go to Dr. Suresh Motwani, I'm just giving one data. Now, how Gulf conflict disrupts fertilizer trade. You see, countries, India, fertilizer 20% comes from this Gulf thing. Bangladesh, 53.3% of the fertilizer comes from this Gulf. Jordan, almost 79% comes from this route. Sudan, 54%, Kenya, 40%, China, 9%, Egypt, 6.4%, and Brazil, 20%. So almost one-third of the global fertilizer requirement routes through this channel also. That means any impact in this channel will have a very, very huge impact on the food production, food availability, food pricing, and overall. So it is a matter of deep concern. It gets, earlier it is resolved, it is good for the global anyway. Now, in the last speaker, Dr. Suresh Motwani is the General Manager, Solidarity Network, Rural Development, Sustainable Agriculture. As a professional with about 25 years of experience, he specialized in sustainable agriculture, supply chains, and rural development. He is a PhD on crop management and also earned MSc in agronomy and PGDM AG from agri-marketing management. His expertise lies in delivering actionable solutions that promote sustainable agricultural practices, agribusiness, and rural development. He has worked extensively with Solidarity Network, providing deliverables that go beyond mere advice. His mission is to contribute to the advancement of sustainable agriculture. All along his career is with the sustainability. So this conflict of West Asia has a large impact on the sustainability impacts also. So we request Dr. Motwani to have your views on the subject actually.
Sure. Thank you, sir. My voice is clear?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Great. So first of all, thank you very much for inviting me for this session. When you are the last speaker on the discussing on the same topic, so many other speakers already talk about the many relative concerns also. I will try to be specific, what I see based on my experience and expertise. I'm part of the Solidarity, but other than this, I'm also the executive board member of the Solvent Extraction Association and General Secretary for the Asian Palm Oil Alliance. So the many things are quite related what is going on. Now we are very much clear, the food security is no about the only production. Generally people think when we talk about the food security, it's about the sufficiency in production. It's not only about the sufficiency in production, it's about the dependency of the different factors, also the part of the food security and the narrative involved with the different type of the market dynamics. So my observation is based on the five critical lenses. I will narrate my views. The five critical lenses. Then I have the five long-term solutions. What could be done in this scenario where we are seeking for the I can say the immediate solution, but we really need to be find out the long-term solutions. So when these type of scenario further comes, so we can be self-dependent also. For short-term solution is already available. Hussein Saab also mentioned about the availability of the fertilizer for this Kharif season, and many other solutions can be applied. For example, the around 40% of the fertilizer need in India is for the paddy crop, and paddy is the single most important crop for the upcoming Kharif season. So automatically, if you going to be promote the other crops instead of paddy, like cotton, the arar, the soybean, so the automatically the demand of fertilizer going to be lower side if you do not have the sufficient availability. So these are the measures available, but I will explain about the five critical lenses. First is the export potential we already discussed, but I have to be narrate here is not only about the export potential, it's directly correlated with the market stability, the price, the production scenario going to the smallholder farmers. Just an example, when we are unable to export the paddy or the soybean meal or the other spices, so it's directly impacting the smallholders farming systems, the long-term financial sustainability also. So this is the one critical lens we really need to be see in the long-term solutions, what can be done, what we alternate arrangement we can see, but this is impacted. We already discussed the export potential is hugely impacted. We are unable to send our products to the countries. Even this Gulf, we 50% of our soybean meal supposed to be go there. It's now sticks. We are unable to be sell there. Second is about the fertilizer dependency. It's directly correlated with the production system also. It's already very well discussed. But within the urea or the muriate of potash or the DAP, I must say is required the much longer deep thinking process within the crops what we are growing in the different seasons in different part of the countries, and where is the availability of the stock or godowns are available. I am saying this based on the third critical points where the logistic and trade routes are disturbing. So we may have the sufficient, I can say the commodities available, but the transportations and also to prepare the different type of the raw material for the production systems is including to, we are depending for 20% urea, but still whatever the 80% we are processing here, it's require the raw material, which is going to be depend on the fuel availability on the different type of the systems. So again, it's going to be interconnected with the systems. So this is the third. Edible oil import dependence, basically, this is a huge issue. Sir already mentioned about this detail, and I have sufficient data, more than 60% what we are depend. But I must say, so in this current immediate scenario, the issue is not about the supply of the edible oil. It is going very well. We are getting the sufficient edible oil from the Malaysia, from the Indonesia, from the Brazil, from the Argentina. We have the sufficient stocks available. The issue is the availability of the packaging material to sell this oil and the small packing, consumer level packing, the transportation, the fuel, the logistics, and this increase, I may say, is around the 10 to 15 rupees per liter of the oil in 1 liter is already increased in the market if you see the ground realities. So edible oil import dependence is the one aspect, but related logistic issues and other issues are more severe compared to the availability of the edible oil. And fourth, I already talked about the logistic trade routes. This is very well discussed. Importantly, the logistics, we are dependent on the many things on the many countries for the all type of the packaging requirement, for the branding requirement, for the transportation logistics. So this is a huge issue. When we talk about the food security, then generally people do not talk about these associated issues. We all just talk about how much the wheat we are producing in India or the paddy we produce in India. to fulfill our eating requirement, but not these all issues, but this is interdependent. And for packaging energy, we already discussed. So these five critical lenses are there. What I intend to be say in the longer term, we have to be discuss the some sustainable solutions. As I already mentioned about me, I am the sustainability expert. So the five different level sustainability solution what we can propose. First is the diversification. We really need to be diversified our different type of the requirement. It's not only about the cropping systems, the paddy, wheat, or the edible oil. It's also about the requirement of the farm inputs. It's also about the requirement of the different type of the associate linkage, the market. We need the diversified system for a huge country like India. Domestic strengthening is already a well talked subject. We really need Modi ji ka sapna Bharat self sufficient rahe, but we really need to be do the some sort of the concrete steps. Some steps are already there. You might be aware the edible oil mission is available, palm oil mission is available to reduce our dependency for the edible oil. Pulses also in the last budget they announced a special scheme for the pulse productions also. So this is another aspect, domestic strengthening our availability. Not only about the commodities, also for the fertilizer and the farm input requirements, what I'm trying to be saying. And third, I say that this is the most important. We have to be design our policies, our directions in the long-term regenerative farming systems. In this alone steps, when we design these farming systems based on the regenerative practices, it can reduce the farm input requirement up to 30 to 40%, especially in terms of the chemical fertilizer or the chemical pesticide what we require. And this is a proof practices available which can be replicated in the different ways. We really need the input, we really need the investment to promote these low cost input solutions for the farmers through this regenerative agriculture practices. And fourth, to strengthen the ecosystem, we have to be develop the systems. And country like India, where the 75%, 80% farmers are the smallholder farmers, we really need to be institutionalize the agriculture system. And the one good way is to be support the farmer producer companies, farmer producer organizations. This is one of the initiatives already going through the government of India by developing 10,000 farmer producer organizations. So this could be the permanent institutional solution for these types of scenario, where the APOs can be able to be absorb these type of the new emerging scenarios, whatever the less availability of the input fertilizer or the excess availability of the production through different localized solutions they can be able. And fifth, I can say whatever we talk about the self-sufficiency, we are in the modern era, we are in the global economy, we really need to be develop the long-term agreements, relations with the different countries for the trade-based or the diplomacy-based relations. It will be the necessity. It's not only about to be self-sufficient for the agriculture input or the fertilizer or the production for the commodities. We really need in the modern era to develop the good agriculture diplomatic agreements and the policies in place through engaging with the new thought process. We are already the part of the BRICS or the different forums. So we now need to be really develop the five different type of the I can say the geopolitical agreement based on the agriculture scenario, where we are depend for the edible oil, for the pulses, or where we are depend for the market-based force. This is also connected with the whatever the US tariff going on in the some month ago. Now it will be again in the discussions. What I hear, the delegation is already going to the US. This is also connected with these all systems. So we need these all diplomatical solutions also, as well as the self-sufficiency. So this is my brief. I will be open to more discuss. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Suresh, Dr. Suresh. I think you have highlighted very important points, 5 points in the beginning about the situation, and also the 5 points about the suggestions about the go ahead, how we should go ahead. Like farm input diversification is one of the major things. Then most importantly, regenerative agriculture you have highlighted, which is also linked with the input diversifications also. So that in situ applications of the inputs will give the plant a more sustainability. Then APO developments so that a new business model can exist. And then last point is very important, that diplomatic agreements with the different sources, different connects, so that we are broad spectrum and we can have our options much more open also. But I think, and moreover, your entire presentation naturally was based on sustainability, because you are a master of sustainability, and your knowledge on the, particularly on the oil seeds and others, are enormous. So thank you very much for your presentations and guidance also. So I think we have heard now eminent speakers from Mr. Siraj Hussain, Professor Ajitabo Rai Chaudhary, Mr. Suraj Agrawal, and Dr. Suresh Motwani. Now I request the participants to have their queries addressed to any of the speakers. They like to say something about whatever you have delivered so far. You are most welcome now. Yeah, please.
Yeah, so good evening, sir.
Please take this.
Actually, like I am not related to business, so I am into the consulting industry in one of the big four firms. So I have worked with clients who are into this agro sector and all. So actually, the thing is that I am from a strategy background. I have done my MBA in strategic management from IIM Nagpur. So I am planning to write a white paper on this sector because I worked with clients. So I want to know few of the use cases on the application of AI that you were saying with the export, or some items that we have demand. And as I am a part of the data analytics competency, I work with data lake, data warehouse. So how I can frame out a use case revolving around data, AI, and this agro sector, if you can give a guidance.
I think Mr. Siraj Hussain is with us, no? Sir, you are with us? So,
Yes, of course.
yeah. So, sir, she has requested, because she is from the Big Four consulting firm, she is preparing one white paper on the policies. So, she is interested to know how AI and other tools could be utilized to assess the situation and how to go forward for recommending the future also. Am I? Yeah. So, sir, if you can say something on that, this thing, because I understand government has coming with the agri-stack and all other things. So, I think you are one of the most eminent person who can guide on this thing.
Actually, the government, both the state governments and the center, they collect a lot of data relating to rural economy and agriculture. But unfortunately, most of this data is not released in public domain, and therefore it remains unutilized. And madam, you would, sitting in Calcutta, you would already be aware that even the election data is not available in public domain. And I have written about it. Have a look at that. Because, for example, before finalizing the report, the Election Commission is supposed to see various formats, 1 to 8. But that data is not released. So as an expert on AI, you should demand from the government that whatever data is collected, most of it should be released except for data which is sensitive because of security reasons. All the data should be in public domain, and once you get that data in public domain, then you can use AI to analyze that data. The other thing, second thing is that AgriStack is able to collect a lot of data of landowners. However, there is no data on tenants who are actually cultivating the land. So the level of tenancy is very high. In Andhra Pradesh and Telangana, it is about 30%. At all India level, it is said to be just about 13%. But can we use AI to identify the tenants, and then we can perhaps do direct benefit transfer of fertilizer subsidy and other things? So there are several use cases of AI, but for that you need raw data, which is not really available to the extent which is desirable.
Okay, thank you. That was really helpful.
Actually, what Mr. Hussain has told, that is the problem. Data are there, but not available in the public domain. And though through AgriStacks they are trying, but still there are a lot of challenges. But I think your point is very valid. If the data are available, then you can work hard to get the policies.
Yeah, because data analytics, we can do the analysis or visualization or BI, whatever, if it is available. So data is only not properly available. So we have that challenge.
In agriculture, it is one of the biggest challenge now.
Yes, yes.
And that's why many companies like you, there are a lot of big startup companies, those who are doing, they have a farmer base of 1.4 crores, but data they don't have fully accommodated. So that is the way forward. I think we are hopeful that it will be available in due course
Yeah,
of time.
let's hope.
Thank you. Yeah,
Sir, may I have a small, sorry.
yeah, please. Suresh you like to say something?
Yeah, just a small comment basically. As Raj have already mentioned, many of the data is already available in the government systems, and it's depend on the how you are going to be liaison with the different government department. You will get the right information. We have the one current examples when we were discussing about the EUDR requirement for the European Union. So we find the good data available for the soybean supply chain with the existing mandi systems. So what is the additional requirement from the EUDR? You have the must traceability on the farmer level. This is already available on the farmers through the mandi systems, and we were fortunate to organize this data from the government. So it is available. It's based on the how you are going to be discussed and the further for the what is the purpose for this data location. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
I just want to mention a couple of things. One is that what kind of data do we need? There should be a purpose. There are two major purposes which with big data, which comes here, huge data, and the artificial intelligence really shift through the data and give you some basic facts. One is allocation efficiency. So there are a lot of data and you have different kinds of, as mentioned, there are different groups of cultivators, large, small, and allocative efficiency is very important because the productivity level in India is still low compared to the high productive. Why it is so? If I want to get an answer, AI can give me an answer, provided I can put the question correctly. That my purpose is the allocative efficiency. I want to know more about it. The second important point where I think AI will be able to help, there are this question of distributive justice. That there is so much production may be happening, and what we can do to have some kind of proper distribution of income or assets in agriculture. Data are there, but are we putting the question in the right frame so that the data is collected and supplied to me so that I can clearly say that this is exactly what I need? One thing we can ask the government, give me as much data as you want, but what do I want? What is my goal? What do I want to do with this? So there is supply and demand, both sides are important. Just government can supply huge amount of data, and I'm quite sure that happens like when the National Sample Survey, now it's the Statistical Commission, etc. are giving. When initially they were putting so much of data, lot of data went waste. People do not know what to do with this. But later, lot of things were put in place and lot of questions were asked. That these are the things which were mainly welfare related and all other things. So this I think is very crucial.
And one more thing we have, like in my work tenure, I have seen one of the challenges is deduplication of data and data missing. Like you will have one record multiple times for no reasons. So that actually creates a lot of data inconsistency and inefficiency. Also, there are missing data. Like you are saying, there is a supply and demand side. So data matching is a very much challenge.
No, that's a separate field like data mining, data cleaning. Lot of this, statistical jobs are there, which are data cleaning, data mining, and people who are coming out with some degrees, with some knowledge of AI and computing. Data, cleaning as well as data mining is hugely profitable jobs in that way. They pay a lot. But then, when they are cleaning, one is a technical person, he can clean the things. The other is the users. What do we want really? They can clean a whole lot of things, but do we really need those kind of cleaning or different kind of cleaning? That should be very clear to the users. I can ask, clean the data, I can ask, mine the data. They will do it. But is this sufficient? Is this what I want? That should be very clear.
Yeah, I mean, the requirements should be specified, that what
Very
exactly you
specific,
want.
very pointed.
Just saying clean the
Goals
data.
must be clearly stated,
Yes.
what I want to do as an investigator, a consultant, researcher. A lot of deficiencies there too,
I think,
within academic fields as well.
thank you. I think you have raised a very valuable questions. So any,
Good afternoon, sir. May I add to this point?
yeah, please.
Okay. Sir, let me introduce myself. I myself is chartered accountant. Okay. So, madam and sir, they were talking about the data analysis. So, there is a technique that is called CAT, C-A-T-T, C-A-A-T, that is computer aided audit technique. Your data is in very raw form. Okay. So, if you use this technique, you can analyze the data according to your purpose. You can use this. So it is available in the market also. Secondly, so far as food is concerned, as our previous learned speaker has told me, that we are talking about the food dependency, not food sufficiency. Why? Because we are food sufficient country. So it is not clear to me whether we are food importer or exporter. Let me define this first of all. Based on this definition, we will go for principles, policies. Thirdly, subsidy on fertilizer. It's a short-term arrangement. The government cannot open endless for this subsidy. So we have to depend on ourselves. It is a short-term arrangement. Thirdly, is there any program from government side for diversification of procurement of fertilizer? Because we are dependent on these countries in West Asia. Fourthly, instead of using urea, why not we are going for organic fertilizer? This will decrease our dependency. And fourthly, for packing materials, we are using polyester, I think. I don't exactly tell you the word, but it is something out of polyester. So why not we are going for jute bags? And the last one is edible oil. You know that most of the edible oil come from Southeast, not from Western Asia. So the risk is not so high. So please ensure.
So I think I appreciate your questions, but you see, this is a broad term discussions. Whatever you have raised, that is needs a full day deliberations. One is about the dependency, then substitution, all those things. Today's discussions, we will try to restrict to the impact of the conflict in West Asia, how it's going to the food security of the country. That otherwise, if we would like to discuss on the alternative arrangements like organic farming, organic this will take a long time. But today's discussion is that because of the disruptions, availability of the fertilizers will be impacted, and what will be the final, whether kharif crops will be disturbed to that extent, or Rabi will be this thing. If war prolongs, what will happen? Logistics is getting changed, export is getting impacted. So we are discussing on that point of view. So what you are telling is that is already government is trying, because we are self-sufficient in the food productions like grains, but not on the oil seeds or on the pulses also. So that we know. For which government has come with a lot of initiatives, lot of activities is going on, new varieties, everything. So that will take a long time to discussions. But government is already working. So whatever impacts is taking place, how we can take it forward with our own resources, that we will discuss there actually. But we will definitely come back to your queries also. Any other? Yeah. You can address these questions to speakers, mostly those who have discussed on the subjects, and then you can give your comments also. But I humbly request you to focus on the topic today so that we are remained within the subject actually. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Suchishmita Roy, so I was in Bayer, so I'm in Cropnex now. So coming from the agriculture background, I think we have a very august presence of, distinguished speakers. But one thing, we are speaking about fertilizers, we are speaking about urea, we are talking about supply chain. There's one big factor is our farmers who grow the food for us. Because first the food is grown in the fields in form of crops. Then of course the production happens and then export and of course import also happens. Now what are the farmers facing? I just wanted to point 3 to 4 points. Basically, one part which the farmers will be facing is, forget about urea and fertilizer, that is the crop protection products. We term it as pesticides, which is in a very, I would say, black mark rather. People have a very black, negative tonation about it. But like we, human beings, we need a doctor when we get sick. Plants also get sick. There's an infestation of pests, infestation of fungicides, fungus, moisture absorption. All these factors, the plants get, the crops get infected. We have to import a lot of raw materials to produce our pesticides in this country. And that's getting affected because today companies, large companies, we keep a stock of 6 months, but the raw material has to come in. So what is happening? There is an increase of 20 to 25% increase in the prices because the supply chain gets affected. And after the farmer is actually growing the crops, few farmers also are exporting. We are exporting horticulture products, dry fruits, poultry, a lot of food grains to the West Asian countries, also the African countries. But there the farmers will not get the prices. But what happens to their farmers' income? This is one thing which we need to actually deliberate, probably. And when we talk about the topic from conflict to crop, I think this is something which we have to deliberate. In fact, the government also possibly needs to have those, policy changes, because this is the need of the hour. So we need to think forward, maybe 6 months down the line. We do not know how long the West Asia crisis will be there. The war is going to be there. But I think, talking about farmers who grow our crops, we need to really. It's not about the fertilizer. It's about the crop protection on ground. What are the prices that they're raising today? The farmers, when they're putting their seeds, we have very good variety of seeds. But what is happening with this conflict? There'll be a lot of counterfeit products coming in. How do we address that in terms of crop protection and pesticides and also of seeds? So these are the things which needs to be there, and government also has to chip in and take measures on ground. So this is just, I wanted to add these 2 points, I think these 3 to 4 points. Thank you. Thank you for
I think, Sushmita, you have raised very valid points. If I understand your queries, one is that along with fertilizer, pesticides, though it has a very different notions amongst the civil society, but it is also equally important for the maintaining the food safety and quantum productions also. And yes, it's true that the price is already gone up by 15 to 20%, and inventory is not there also, and raw materials are not coming, so there will be impact also. So there is a cost of production of the produce will go up, but that cost of increase is not translated into the farmers' economy actually. Farmers are not getting that this thing. So this conflict is impacting the crop, impacting the farmer. So on that basis, we like to hear some comments on this subject. So I think both of you here, Hussain Saab, if you can say something on this point, that will be wonderful actually.
Okay. So actually it is true that the prices of pesticides and insecticides are likely to go up as a result of the war because the supply chain is disrupted. But we have to remember that India is a very large producer of pesticides and insecticides, and our company is a global company, UPL. So I think in the longer term, once the war is over, then the prices should not be too high. But it is true that glyphosate, for example, 100 grams price has gone up from 45 rupees to 55 rupees. Similarly, paraquat price has gone up to about 300 rupees, up from 230. Uh, of course, if the war comes to an end, then I expect the prices to normalize and not remain at a very high level.
Yeah, I think very well said, sir. I think, yes, it has gone up, but if the war gets, I think, then I think gradually the pricing will come down, but impacts will be there. So this, for particularly for plant protection chemicals, Suchishmita, I understand, as per the information available from the corporate offices, that they are facing two challenges. One is the inventory is very limited now. They don't have sufficient stocks, and then prices increasing. And another point is, in this opportunity, some counterfeit materials may come that might damage also. So that is a challenge, but that will take place. But I will come down to in this thing with Dr. Motwani that regenerative agriculture will take little bit of benefit, and it is a long-term process. Overnight it will not happen, but ultimately many farmers are approaching towards that so that they can manage these input diversifications from different sources also. So, any other questions? I have one questions to particularly to Dr. Motwani and Mr. Hussain, that how do you see if the urea is not available, that there will be a drastic crop shift from cereals to others, and if it happens, will it change the pricing equilibrium of oil seeds? If drastic increase in the acreage of soybean and others increase because of this thing, so do you think that there will be destabilizations of the pricing of the oil seeds overall in the market?
Can I come in?
Yeah, sir, please.
Okay. So first of all, I do not think that government will increase the price of urea uh, because that is considered a political hot cake. But if the availability is constrained, especially in the states where the urea consumption application is very high as compared to the recommended norms, then I think farmers will still not switch to oilseed crops. And the reason is that for oilseed crops, the farmers have not been able to get a good price. So last year, for example, farmers sold soybean at about 4,000 rupees a quintal, while the MSP was more than 4,800. So unless the government can ensure a fair price for oil seeds, farmers may not go for that.
So,
Sureshji, Dr. Motwani.
So first of all, I should validate your point basically. In my opinion, if this is going to be happen, instead of the cereals like paddy and wheat, farmers are going to be moved toward the oil seeds or the pulses. It is good for India. Around 60% of the fertilizer consumption is these two crops, paddy and wheat. This is the one angle, but the another angle, the soil can be further narrowed by pulses. So the oil crop, automatically the soil structure will be regenerated, and also our requirement on the other countries for the edible oil or the pulses may be further. But it's happen only on the ecosystem where the government policies are there, certain shifts are there, and urea really going to be the costly compared to what is available now. So it will automatically divert the capping systems. But I will be happy to be divert. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, doctor. I think we have personalities from the ECGC also. I think export credit guarantee is very important for this thing. So if you can give your views on these subjects about these disruptions, how you are handling it, or you are seeing it actually.
Sure. Thank you, sir, to the dignitaries and participants. So, as you all know, ECGC works to cover payment risk. We are a Government of India company. And recently, DGFT has notified that central government has launched a relief scheme. So this is in 3 components over 2 periods. We have a first period from 14th of February to 15th of March. So in which both the policyholders of ECGC as well as exporters who are not policyholders of ECC are covered. In this, Government of India is saying that for policyholders of ECGC, instead of the usual 80 or 90% cover that we give, we are actually now giving 100% cover for the first component. And for the third component, which is for the non-policyholders, the additional expenses, which like sir has mentioned already, the war surcharge, the additional insurance, the additional shipping charges and so on. So those are covered as long as it is going to those war affected countries or it is transshipping through them. So to that extent, the operational part is that we have received 200 plus claims already from non-policyholders, and we are processing all of them within time. The second component, the component 2, is where it comes for the future, that is from 15th March to 16th March to 15th of June. Here you are required to take ECGC cover, and in that cover, without increasing any premium, again we are giving cover up to 95%. So the additional percentage is supported by government funds. And here also the claims are admissible for all political risks, all war-related risks, and such additional charges. So I'll be covering this in detail. I think next week we already have a scheduled conference. And so any questions with regards, or if anybody would like to approach, or if any of your members have any issues,
sure.
We will.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I think we have almost reached the end of the event. So if any other questions left, you can have. Yeah, please, sir.
আমি শ্যামলেন্দু দাস, আর একটু ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজ প্রবলেম আছে।
You can speak me in Bengali.
Bengali.
Yes, I will translate it here.
আমাদের দেশে কৃষক যারা ফার্মার এবং ছোট কৃষক যেরকম ধরুন পাট চাষি, ধান চাষি বা শস্য যারা উৎপাদন করে, তারা ঠিক যখন চাষটা শুরু হয়, তারা ভীষণভাবে সমস্যার সম্মুখীন হয় রাসায়নিক সার সংগ্রহ করতে। এবং দেখা যাচ্ছে আমাদের দেশের সব কৃষকরাই নির্ভরশীল হয়ে পড়েছে এই রাসায়নিক সার দিয়ে চাষ করা, এবং এই চাষের ফলে যে উৎপাদনটা হচ্ছে সেটা কিন্তু মানুষের খাওয়ার পক্ষে অনেকটাই ক্ষতিকারক। সরকার কিন্তু এটা জানে, কিন্তু সরকার এর কোনো ব্যবস্থা এখনও করেনি। এবং যে কৃষকগুলো অত পরিশ্রম করে অত সমস্যার সম্মুখীন হয়ে যে উৎপাদন করছে, সেই উৎপাদনটা কি করে শহরে নিয়ে আসবে, তার যে মসৃণ যে পথ, ট্রেন কমিউনিকেশন বা বাস কমিউনিকেশন বা জাতীয় সড়ক, অনেক প্রত্যন্ত গ্রামের কৃষকরা সেগুলো জানেই না। কলকাতা তাদের কাছে স্বপ্ন। এবং তারা যখন ওই উৎপাদনটা করে, ধরুন 1 বিঘে চাষি আমি করেছি চাষ, সেখানে ধরুন 500 টাকা খরচা হয়েছে, এবং যখন সেটা আমি বিক্রি করতে যাচ্ছি, আমি শহরে বিক্রি করতে পারছি না, আমি আমার গ্রামে বসে বিক্রি করছি, যেহেতু আমি ক্ষুদ্র চাষি। ফলে কি হচ্ছে, ধরুন আমি 500 টাকা খরচা করে ওটা আমি যখন বিক্রি করতে যাচ্ছি, তখন তো সিজন, তখন বিক্রি হচ্ছে 400 টাকা। উৎপাদন যেটা করলাম, যে ব্যয় করে শ্রম দিয়ে ধার করে বিক্রি করছি, তার থেকে অনেক কম পয়সায়। কিন্তু সরকার সব জানা সত্ত্বেও সরকার কিন্তু আজ পর্যন্ত এর কোনো সুরাহা বা একটা সুন্দর ব্যবস্থাপনা এখনও করেনি। আর যারা এক্সপোর্টার শব্দটাই আমাদের প্রত্যন্ত এলাকার যে কৃষক, তারা কোনোদিন শোনেনি। এবং আমরা যে এখানে আলোচনাটা করছি, এখানে আমার তো মনে হয় সত্যি প্রত্যন্ত এলাকার কোনো কৃষক আছে কিনা আমার সন্দেহ হচ্ছে। কিন্তু আমি পানাগড় থেকে অনেক দূরে, সোনামুখী আর দুর্গাপুর এর মাঝখানে, যেখানে কোনো কমিউনিকেশন নেই, সেইখানকার কৃষকদের প্রত্যক্ষভাবে আমি তাদের কাছে গিয়ে তাদের যে ব্যথা, তাদের যে কষ্ট, তাদের যে সমস্যা, সেটা কিন্তু আমি উপলব্ধি করেছি। এবং আমিও একজন কৃষকের ছেলে। আমি হয়তো কলকাতায় চলে এসেছি, হয়তো আমি লাট সাহেব হয়েছি, চাকরি করছি, কিন্তু আমার গ্রামের কথা আমার যখন মনে পড়ে তখন আমার কান্না পায়। যখন আমার গ্রামের সেই আমার বন্ধুর ছেলেটা আত্মহত্যা করে, তখন আমার ভীষণ ব্যথিত হয়ে পড়ি এবং সরকারের উপর ভীষণভাবে ক্রুদ্ধ হয়ে পড়ি। সরকার কেন ব্যবস্থা করছে না, শুধু মিষ্টি কথা বলে এড়িয়ে যাচ্ছে। আবার একটা ইলেকশন, আবার একটা মিথ্যা প্রতিশ্রুতি দিয়ে কৃষকগুলোকে আরও বিপদগ্রস্ত করে ফেলছে। আমি যখন সংগ্রাম করব, আমি জানি চ্যালেঞ্জ, তখন আমি লড়াই করবো, একটা মনের একটা অন্য শক্তি থাকবে। যখনই একটা নেতা এসে আমাকে বলবে অন্য কথা, প্রতিশ্রুতির কথা, তখন কিন্তু আমার ওই চ্যালেঞ্জ থেকে আমি একটু সরে আসবো ধীরে ধীরে। আর যখনই সরে আসবো, তখন কিন্তু আমার বিপদ একদম ঘরের দরজায় এসে দাঁড়িয়ে থাকবে। তখন আমার মৃত্যু ছাড়া বিকল্প আর কিছু নেই। তাই আমি বলবো আপনাদের বেঙ্গল চেম্বার্স অফ কমার্স যে এরকম একটা সুন্দর আয়োজন করেছে, আমি আমার কমিউনিটি হিউম্যান ওয়েলফেয়ার অর্গানাইজেশনের পক্ষ থেকে আপনাদের অনেক অনেক ধন্যবাদ জানাই। এবং আমার এই কথার মাধ্যমে এটা সরকার, রাজ্য সরকার এবং কেন্দ্র সরকারের কাছে যেন পৌঁছে যায় এবং ওই কৃষকগুলোর যেন একটা কোনো ব্যবস্থা ন্যূনতম হোক, যেন তারা খেয়ে পড়ে বাঁচতে পারে। তারা উৎপাদন করছে আর সেই উৎপাদন আমরা শহরের লোকরা খাচ্ছি। যে চালটা উৎপাদন করে, যে সবজিটা উৎপাদন করে, কিভাবে করে আমরা কিন্তু জানি না। আমরা টাকা দিই, কিনে খেয়ে নিই, একটু ভাবি না তাদের কথা। একটু যদি ভাবেন তাহলে আমি এবং আমার কমিউনিটি আপনাদের কাছে চিরকৃতজ্ঞ হয়ে থাকবে।
नमस्कार, আমার মনে হয় আপনি খুব वास्तव কথা বলেছেন। हम हिंदी, सुरेश जी आप हिंदी नहीं समझ सकते हैं, हम थोड़ा बांग्ला नहीं समझ सकते हैं, हम थोड़ा बंगाली में बात कर रहे हैं। हम थोड़ा आपको मैं टेक्स्ट भेज दूंगा आपको जो मैंने बात किया है। আপনি যেটা কথাটা বললেন সম্পূর্ণ দামি, এবং আপনি ভাববেন না যে আমরা এখানে বসে আছি বলে আমরা মাঠে বা জানি না, বা আমাদের দৈনন্দিন কাজকর্ম আমরা দীর্ঘ 40 বছর ধরে মাঠে ঘাটেই কাজ করেছি। কৃষকের সবচেয়ে সমস্যা 3 জায়গায়। কৃষক উৎপাদন করে, কৃষক জানে না উৎপাদনের কী দামে বিক্রি হবে। ফার্স্ট প্রবলেম হচ্ছে এইটাই। আপনি দেখুন, একটা কৃষকের সঙ্গে যদি একটা বিজনেসম্যানের যদি তুলনা করেন, কোনো ফারাক নেই। কিন্তু একটা বিজনেসম্যানের ল্যান্ড, লেবার, ক্যাপিটাল লাগে, তাই তো? জমি লাগে, মূলধন লাগে, লেবার লাগে। কৃষকেরও তাই লাগে, তারও জমি লাগে, মূলধন লাগে, ক্যাপিটাল লাগে, লেবার লাগে, সব লাগে। কিন্তু আমি যদি সিমেন্ট তৈরি করি, আমি জানি যে সিমেন্ট কী দামে বিক্রি হবে, তাই তো? আমি তার গায়ে এমআরপি লিখে দিই 200 টাকা বস্তা। কিন্তু আলু চাষিকে লিখে যেতে পারে আলুর দাম 12 টাকা, বলতে পারে না। তখন যখন ফসল উঠবে, যা দাম থাকবে সে 4 টাকাও হতে পারে, 15 টাকাও হতে পারে, অনিশ্চিততার মধ্যে চাষ করে। না না না, আমি বলছি সরকারের অসুবিধার কথা, সেটাও বলছি আপনাকে। কৃষকের সবচেয়ে বড় সমস্যা হচ্ছে কৃষক চাষ করে ফাইনাল প্রাইস না জেনে, একমত। এটা সম্পূর্ণ হচ্ছে তার বিগেস্ট চ্যালেঞ্জ। সরকারের চ্যালেঞ্জ কি? সরকারের চ্যালেঞ্জ হচ্ছে যদি দাম বেড়ে যায়, আপনি দোকানে গিয়ে ঝামেলা করব এত দাম বাড়ছে কেন। আর যদি কৃষক যদি দাম না পায়, কৃষকগুলো আমি দাম পাচ্ছি না কেন। দুদিক থেকে কিছু সমস্যা। আজকে আমি যদি 40 টাকা করে আলু কিনি, সাধারণ লোক সবাই খবরের কাগজে পরের দিন দেখবেন এত দাম হয়ে গেল। আবার আলুর দাম যদি 2 টাকা হয়, যে কৃষক বলবে যে আমি সব ফেলে দিয়েছি, আমি কি চাষ করব। দুটো জায়গায় প্রবলেম আছে। প্রবলেমটা হচ্ছে কোনো জায়গায় আমি আপনাকে এক্সাম্পল দিচ্ছি একটা। পশ্চিমবঙ্গে আমাদের আলু চাষ হয়, আমাদের আলু ফলন হয় 1,25,000 মেট্রিক টন পশ্চিমবঙ্গে নিজের দরকার কতটা? 65,000 লক্ষ টন। তাহলে আমি নিজে থেকেই 40 লাখ টন বেশি উৎপাদন করছি। এই 40 লাখ যাবে কোথায়? যদি কেউ বাইরে না নেয়, এক্সপোর্ট করাটা সোজা না। এক্সপোর্ট আমার ভ্যারাইটিটা থাইল্যান্ডে যাবে কি না, আমার ভ্যারাইটিটা ওখানে যাবে কি না, তার জন্য অনেক বড় হয়তো এই আলু খায় না। আপনি দেখুন চন্দ্রমুখী আলু কলকাতায় পশ্চিমবঙ্গে হয়, চন্দ্রমুখী আলু কিন্তু বিহারে হয় না, ইউপিতে হয় না, আসাম হয় না, তারা এই আলু পছন্দ করে না, তারা অন্য করে। অতএব এর মধ্যে অনেক ব্যাপার আছে, এর মধ্যে কোনটা কী ভ্যারাইটি হবে। তবে আপনার যে পয়েন্টটা সেটা সম্পূর্ণ দামি কথা। সেটা হচ্ছে কৃষক দুটো জায়গায় সবচেয়ে বেশি হ্যাম্পার হয়। একটা হচ্ছে ও ক্রেডিট পায় না মার্কেট থেকে, আরেকটা হচ্ছে কোথায় বেচতে হবে সেটা জানে না। এই দুটো জায়গায় ওকে হেল্প করা দরকার। চেম্বারের তরফ থেকে আমরা এই ধরনের প্রচুর প্রোগ্রাম করেছি, স্টেট ব্যাংকের সঙ্গে করেছি, বিভিন্ন সংস্থার সঙ্গে করেছি, যাতে নাকি এফপিওর মারফতে, এই যে গ্রামে যে এফপিওরা আছে তাদের মারফতে কৃষকরা যাতে নাকি কিছুটা সুরাহা পায় তার চেষ্টা করেছি। তবে আপনার বক্তব্য যেটা আছে সেটা আমরা যে নোট করেছি, এবং আমরা আমাদের পলিসি যে নোটটা বানানো হচ্ছে, আপনার উৎকণ্ঠা, আপনার গ্রামের উৎকণ্ঠা যেটা আছে সেটাকে নিয়ে আমরা করব, এবং আমরা যথাযথভাবে আপনাকে চেষ্টা করব যতটা হেল্প করা যায় আপনার এই মানে অদম্য ইচ্ছাটাকে কীভাবে করতে পারি। ঠিক আছে, নমস্কার। আমরা সেইভাবে চেষ্টা নিশ্চয়ই করবো। এছাড়া আর কারোর কোনো বক্তব্য আছে?
Sir,
আমরা লাস্ট কোশ্চেন।
I would like to ask you something here.
ওকে,
আমিও বাংলায় বলছি, ওনারও একটু সুবিধা হবে বুঝতে। আমার নাম কৌস্তব ঘোষ। বেসিক্যালি আমি আয়ুর্বেদিক ইন্ডাস্ট্রি থেকে আছি। আমাদের 112 বছরের আয়ুর্বেদিক প্রতিষ্ঠান হাবড়া, নর্থ 24 পরগনাসে আছে। তো সেটাকে এখন অনেক বেটারভাবে আমি তুলে আনার চেষ্টা করছি। এর সাথে সাথে যেটা আমি ওখানে লক্ষ্য করেছিলাম, কিছু ফার্মার্স আছেন আমাদের সারাউন্ডিং এরিয়া, আপনি জানেন ওগুলো কৃষি প্রধান এলাকা, এবং হাবড়া পশ্চিমবঙ্গের সবচেয়ে বড় রাইস মার্কেটের মধ্যে অন্যতম। তো সেখানে কিছু ফুড মানে প্রসেসিং প্রোডাক্টসগুলো আমরা এখন রেডি করেছি, সেগুলো যাচ্ছে। তো এগুলো করতে গিয়ে লোকাল ফার্মার্সদের সাথে বিভিন্নভাবে আমার কথা হয়, যোগাযোগ হয়, তাদের সুবিধাগুলো আমরা জানি, শুনি। তো যখন এই প্রোগ্রামটা আমি জানলাম আছে, আমি এই জন্যই আসলাম যে শিখতে আসলাম, জানতে আসলাম। কারণ আমি তো সবটা জানি হতে পারে না, ওনার থেকেও শিখছি, আপনাদের থেকেও শিখছি, সবার থেকে শিখছি, স্যারেরা আছেন। সো আমার একটা জিনিস বলার আছে যেটা ফার্মাররা খুব ফেস করে, হয়তো স্যার জানেন, যে আমাদের এখানে স্যার যে জমিগুলো আছে সব জায়গার জমির চরিত্র এক নয়। উনি যে রিজিয়নটার কথা বলছেন ওখানের জমি আমাদের এখানের জমি অনেক আলাদা। আর স্যার একটা খুব ইম্পর্টেন্ট কথা বলছিলেন যে আমরা যখন ওয়েস্টার্ন সাইড থেকে অনেক কিছু আনতে হচ্ছে আমাদের দেশের জন্য, বা ইস্টার্ন সাউথ ইস্ট থেকে যে আমাদের তেলটা আনতে হচ্ছে, যার উপর আমরা অনেকটা নির্ভরশীল, তো এটা কি কোনোভাবে করা যায় না? আমাদের বেঙ্গল তো কৃষিতে অনেক ডেভেলপ, স্যারও জানেন ভালোভাবেই। তো আমাদের বেঙ্গলে যদি আমরা এডিবল অয়েল যে ইন্ডাস্ট্রিজ রয়েছে সেটাকে যদি আরও বাড়াতে পারি, আমাদের বেঙ্গলের যদি সয়েলটাকে কাজে লাগিয়ে যে এডিবল অয়েলগুলো এখান থেকে বাইরে এক্সপোর্ট করা সম্ভব। আমি জানি সব জায়গার কোয়ালিটি চলে না, যেমন আপনি আলুর কথা বললেন, আমাকে রিকোয়ারমেন্টের ওপর ভিত্তি করে আমাদের বিজনেসটা করতে হয়। এটা প্রত্যেকটা ব্যবসায়ীর একই রুল, যে ইন্ডাস্ট্রিতে থাকি, ঠিক তো স্যার? সো আমার মনে হয় যে এটা যদি আমরা ফোকাস করতে পারি যে আমাদের এডিবল অয়েল যেটাই হবে সেটাকে আমাদের এখানকার সয়েল অনুযায়ী আমরা যদি চাষ করতে পারি এবং সেই ইন্ডাস্ট্রিটাকে গ্রো আপ করতে পারি, ফার্মার্সদের খুব সুবিধা হবে, এবং আমার মনে হয় সেটা প্রাইসটাও কন্ট্রোল করা অনেক ইজি হবে। এটা আমার কথা রাখলাম। এবারে আপনারা অভিজ্ঞ আছেন, আপনারা মতামত দেবেন।
না, আপনার কথা খুবই দামি। আমরা প্রোগ্রাম শেষ করার আগে এই প্রশ্নটা নিচ্ছি। সেটা হচ্ছে যে আমরা জানি পশ্চিমবঙ্গে প্রচুর সর্ষে হয় এবং বাঙালি সবচেয়ে বেশি সর্ষের তেল খায়। ইমামি সর্ষের তেল খুব তৈরি করে, তাই তো? অথচ ইমামি তাহলে পশ্চিমবঙ্গ থেকে সর্ষে কেনে না কেন? তার কারণটা কী? কারণ ইমামি আমাদের সঙ্গে যুক্ত আছে। ওনাদের বক্তব্য হচ্ছে সর্ষের তেল খেতে যেটা তৈরি হয় তার জন্য যে ভ্যারাইটিটা দরকার সেই ভ্যারাইটিটা তৈরি হয় রাজস্থানে। তার জন্য পুরো সর্ষের তেলটাই প্রকিওর করছে রাজস্থান থেকে। আমরা একটা কথা বলেছি ওনাদের সঙ্গে যে আপনারা ওই ভ্যারাইটিটা আমরা ছোট ছোট প্লটে এখানে চাষ করে দেখব, যদি দেখা যায় সাকসেসফুল হচ্ছে আপনারা তখন নদিয়া, মুর্শিদাবাদ, সর্ষের বেল্ট যদি দেখেন 24 পরগনা নর্থ, নদিয়া, মুর্শিদাবাদ, হুগলি, দিনাজপুর, এদিক হচ্ছে বেল্ট অ্যাকচুয়ালি। সেখানে যদি হয় তাহলে ওই ভ্যারাইটিটা করা যায় কিনা। তো ওই ভ্যারাইটিটার জন্য কাজ চলছে ওরা, যে আমরাও যে তুমি ফ্যাক্টরি তোমার অফিস তোমার কলকাতায়, তুমি ফ্যাক্টরি করেছো রাজস্থানে, ওখান থেকে বলছি আমার এখানকার ভ্যারাইটি তো হচ্ছে না, এতে আমার পাঞ্জেন্সি, কারণ আমরা একটু ঝাল বেশি চাই, তো ঝাল বেশি চাই, তো সেই কারণে সে হচ্ছে না। তো আমরা কাজ করছি ওদের সঙ্গে যে যদি কিছু নতুন ভ্যারাইটি দিয়ে ওই ভ্যারাইটি এখানে এসে করা যায় কিনা সে নিয়ে কাজ করছে। তবে উদ্যোগ রয়েছে, চেষ্টা রয়েছে, সময় সাপেক্ষ ব্যাপার নিঃসন্দেহে। আমার
হ্যালো
হ্যাঁ
হ্যালো
হ্যাঁ
আমি এই ব্যাপারে বলছি, মানে আলু চাষের ক্ষেত্রে আমি এই বছর একটুখানি গিয়েছিলাম পশ্চিমবঙ্গে, মানে বেশ কিছু হুগলি বা ওই দিকে। এবারে কিন্তু বেশ কিছু কোম্পানি যারা আর কি চিপস তৈরি করে, এরা কোম্পানির আলু বলে চাষিরা কিন্তু বিক্রি করছে, মানে বাইব্যাগ 10 টাকা করে আমি দেখলাম তারা নিয়ে নিচ্ছে, বেশ প্রচুর মানে ওই দিকে আলু এইরকম হচ্ছে। আর একটা আমার রায়চৌধুরী স্যারের কাছে একটা মানে কোয়েশ্চেন আছে, মানে একটা ব্রডার ফ্রেমে, যে এই যে আমাদের ট্যান্ট্রাম হচ্ছে, মানে অল উই আর ড্যান্সিং, তো এখানে এই ডলার প্রাইস যেইভাবে হচ্ছে, এই সব টোটাল ম্যাক্রো ইকোনমিক্সের একটা ছোট একটু নাটশেল যদি দেন, আমাদের কি কি সেক্টরের ওপর ইম্প্যাক্ট করতে পারে?
সময় লাগবে, আপনি ওনার সঙ্গে যোগাযোগ করে নেবেন, আমার মনে হয় সেটা ভাবে। আর আপনাকে আজ এই প্রোগ্রাম শেষ করার আগে লাস্ট উত্তরটা দিয়ে দিই আপনাকে, যে আপনি বলছেন যে বিভিন্ন আলু চাষে কোম্পানির আলু কিনছে। আপনাকে বলে রাখি, আপনারা যে চিপস খান না, পটেটো চিপস, পেপসিকো বানায় তো, ফ্যাক্টরিটা হচ্ছে ডানকুনিতে। আপনারা যদি যান দেখবেন ওদের ফ্যাক্টরি এখানে আছে, আপনার নর্থ বেঙ্গলে আছে বা মহারাষ্ট্রে আছে, সব আছে ওদের। আমরা যে চাষ আলুর যে ভ্যারাইটি চাষ করি আমরা পশ্চিমবঙ্গে, সেটা করি হচ্ছে আমরা কুফরি, জ্যোতি আর হচ্ছে চন্দ্রমুখী, এইগুলো করি আমরা। এর ওয়াটার পার্সেন্টেজ যা আছে সেই পার্সেন্টেজে আপনার চিপস হয় না, তার জন্য আমরা তরকারি করে খাই, আলু কেটে তরকারি করে খাই, কারণ ওতে ময়েশ্চার কন্টেন্ট বেশি আছে। ওরা কি আলু দিয়ে চাষ করে, ওদের আলুর ভ্যারাইটির নাম হচ্ছে চিপস সোনা। এটা আসে ইউএসের আটলান্টা থেকে, ওটা প্লেনে করে ওরা ইম্পোর্ট করে সেই আলুটা ওখান থেকে আসে আটলান্টা থেকে, ছোট ছোট আলু। এবং তার ওরা সেই আলুটা ওদের যেটা সিস্টেম আছে, ওটা কন্ট্রাক্ট ফার্মিং ঠিক না, ওটা হচ্ছে প্রসেস ফার্মিং। মানে তোমার জমিতে তুমি চাষ করবে, তোমার 6 বিঘা আছে, তুমি চাষ করবে, আমার বীজ, আমার পেস্টিসাইড রিকমেন্ডেশন, আমার মধ্যে চাষ, তুমি তোমার মধ্যে কিছু করতে পারবে না। যদি করো, বছরের শেষে তোমার কাছ থেকে 12 টাকা করে আলু কিনে নেবো। তখন যদি আলুর দাম যদি 2 টাকাও হয় তোমাকে 12 দেবো, আলুর দাম যদি 25 টাকাও হয় তোমাকে 12 টাকা দেবো। তো চাষি কেন যাচ্ছে, ও দেখছে যে আমার কস্ট অফ প্রোডাকশান আলুতে মোটামুটি হচ্ছে 8 থেকে 8.5 টাকা থেকে 9 টাকা ম্যাক্সিমাম। যদি 12 টাকা অ্যাসুরেন্স পেয়ে যাই, তাহলে আমি এটাতেই যাই অ্যাকচুয়ালি। তো ধীরে ধীরে দেখবেন, আগে 20,000 একরে হতো, এখন 30,000, 40,000, অনেক নর্থ বেঙ্গল, সাউথ বেঙ্গলে সব জায়গায় যাচ্ছে। তো এর সুবিধাও আছে, অসুবিধাও আছে। যখন চাষি ভাবে কি, আরে 25 টাকা করে আলুর দাম হয়ে গেলো, আমি কেন 12 টাকা দেবো, আরে এই তো ওদের ভ্যারাইটি হচ্ছে আলাদা, চিপস সোনা 1, 2, 3, এবং আমাদের ভ্যারাইটিটা হচ্ছে কুফরি, জ্যোতি, চন্দ্রমুখী, লালিমা, এগুলো হয়। তো এখানে হচ্ছে ভ্যারাইটাল কনফ্লিক্ট আছে। বাট পটেটো রিসার্চ ইনস্টিটিউট যেটা কুফরিতে আছে, সিমলায় আছে, ওরা কাজ করছে এর উপর। আমার মনে হয় নতুন ভ্যারাইটি বেরিয়ে গেলে সেটাও একটা কিন্তু আসবে। থ্যাংক ইউ। হ্যাঁ বলুন, লাস্ট প্রশ্ন এটা। হ্যাঁ
স্যার, আমরা মাইক্রোনিউট্রিয়েন্ট বেস কিছু প্রোডাক্ট আমরা তৈরি করি, মানে বায়োফার্টিলাইজার এবং বায়োস্টিমুলেন্ট আমরা প্রোডাকশন করি, এবং আমরা গভর্নমেন্ট বডি এবং যেগুলো SKUS আছে, মানে সমবায় সমিতি, তাদের সঙ্গে আমরা কাজ করি। প্রায় আমরা মোটামুটি 150 সমবায় সমিতির সঙ্গে কাজ করি। আমরা হুগলি থেকে আসছি। উনি যে কথা বলছেন বা আমরা যেটা নিয়ে আলোচনা করছিলাম, সেখানে আমার বিষয় 3টে বলার আছে। প্রথম বিষয় হচ্ছে আমাদের কস্ট অফ প্রোডাকশান যেটা হচ্ছে, সেটা এই জিওপলিটিক্যাল টেনশানের জন্য কিন্তু অনেকটা বেড়ে গেছে। প্রায় অনেকেই বলছে 20%, আমরা কিন্তু যখন প্রোডাকশান করতে যাচ্ছি তখন দেখছি 20%, 30%-এর উপর চলে গেছে। এবং এই প্রোডাকশানের যে এই কস্টিংটা বাড়ছে, এটা কিন্তু এগ্রিকালচার ফিল্ডে যারা আমাদের ফার্মার্স আছে তাদের উপরেই গিয়ে পড়ছে। কিন্তু যখন তারা, যে প্রশ্নটা এখন চলছে আর কি, তখন যারা ওই ফার্মাররা যারা পটেটো চাষ করছে, 1 বিঘা পটেটো চাষ করতে 30,000 টাকা খরচা হয়।
আমি হুগলির কথা বলছি, উনি যে চন্দ্রমুখীর কথা বললেন ওটার কথা বলছি। সেখানে আমরা 80 থেকে 90 প্যাকেট আমরা আলু পাই, মোটামুটি গড়ে ধরলে 350 থেকে 400 টাকার আশপাশে এক প্যাকেট মানে 50 কেজির বস্তার আলু হয়। কিন্তু যে সিচুয়েশনটা এখন তৈরি হয়েছে, সেই প্রোডাকশানের উপর যখন 20%-এর উপর 30% গিয়ে চাপছে, তখনই কিন্তু দামটা অনেক বেড়ে যাচ্ছে। এরপর ট্রান্সপোর্টেশন আসছে। যেহেতু আমরা যখন মাইক্রোনিউট্রিয়েন্টের উপর আমরা 30% থেকে 40% মাইক্রোনিউট্রিয়েন্ট আমরা গলফ রিজিয়ন থেকে পারচেস করতে গিয়ে দেখতে পাচ্ছি ওখানের এই সিচুয়েশানে অনেকটা হাই হয়ে গেছে, যার জন্য এই সিচুয়েশানটা ক্রিয়েট হচ্ছে। এখানে উনি যেটা বলতে চাইছেন বা আমরা যেটা বলতে চাইছি, এখানে এমএসপিটা ঠিক করতে হবে। গভর্নমেন্ট যদি এমএসপিটা একটা ঠিক করে এই সিচুয়েশানের জন্য, তাহলে কিন্তু এই সিচুয়েশানটা অনেকটা হ্যান্ডেল হবে। এরপর একটা গুরুত্বপূর্ণ বিষয় যেটা আমরা প্রথম থেকেই শুনছিলাম, যে আমাদের স্পিকাররা বলছিলেন, সেখানে দেখা যাচ্ছে এনপিকে রেটটা কিন্তু অনেকটা বেড়েছে। মানে যেটা আমরা ইউরিয়া এবং এনপিকে এই দুটো রেট কিন্তু অনেক বেড়েছে। এনপিকের রেট এখন বেড়ে গিয়ে দেখা যাচ্ছে যেটা 24-25 ফিনান্সিয়াল ইয়ারে ছিল 1450 টাকা, সেটা এখন গিয়ে দাঁড়িয়েছে 1850 টাকা। এর সঙ্গে আরও আনুষঙ্গিক অনেক কিছু চাপছে, আর লোকাল ট্রান্সপোর্টেশন আছে, আমরা যেটাকে একদম মিস আউট করে যাচ্ছি। আর ইউরিয়াতে মোটামুটি এখন পর্যন্ত যা দেখা যাচ্ছে প্রায় 30%-এর উপর টাকা চেপেছে আর কি। যার জন্য কি হচ্ছে, আমাদের প্রোডাকশানে যারা বায়ো ফার্টিলাইজার বা বায়োস্টিমুলেন্ট নিয়ে কাজ করছে, তাদের উপরেও অনেকটা প্রেসারাইজড হচ্ছে। তারাও তাদের মানে ব্যবসায়িক জায়গাতে আমরাও অনেক ধাক্কা খাচ্ছি। এই জায়গাটা থেকে বেরোতে হলে আমাদেরকে সবাইকে একজোট হয়ে কাজ করতে হবে, এটাই আমার মনে হয়।
থ্যাংক ইউ, আমার ভালো সাজেশন দিয়েছেন। এমএসপি ইজ এ বিগ ইস্যু, ওইটা নিয়ে তো পার্লামেন্টেই কথা হতে পারে একমাত্র। এখন যা পলিসি আছে, যে স্বামীনাথনের ফর্মুলা যেটা আছে, কস্ট অফ প্রোডাকশন প্লাস 50% প্রফিট, এই ধরে যেটা হয়, সেটা নিয়ে তো বিরাট মানে এমএসপি না ফেয়ার প্রাইস না কী হবে, সেটা তো বড়ো সাবজেক্ট। ন্যাচারালি যদি একটা প্রাইসটা হয় তবে চাষির পক্ষে সেটা সুবিধা হবে। আর কস্ট অফ প্রোডাকশনের যেটা নাকি আপনাদের বেড়েছে, সেটা একটা চ্যালেঞ্জ এসছে, এবং তার জন্য আজকের অনুষ্ঠানটা যে
ইরান থেকে আমরা যেগুলো মাইক্রোনিউট্রিয়েন্ট এবং এগুলো আসছিল, সেইটার প্রাইসটা অনেকটা হাই হয়েছে।
এবং এটা শুধু মাইক্রোনিউট্রিয়েন্ট বলে না,
ইউরিয়া ফার্টিলাইজার
সবই
কেমিক্যাল ফার্টিলাইজারও তাই, বায়ো ফার্টিলাইজার।
সেটাই হচ্ছে যে প্রশ্ন, যেন যুদ্ধ তাড়াতাড়ি থেমে যায়, তাতে নাকি আমরা আগামী দিনে এরকম অসুবিধা না হয়, এবং এর পরিবর্তে চাষটা কীভাবে করা উচিত সেই জিনিসটাকে নিয়ে আমরা ভাববো। তো এইভাবে আমার মনে হয় আমরা উই আর এ ভেরি সাকসেসফুল ডিসকাশনস আজকে। Mr. Dr. Motwani, my apology. We have discussed a lot of things in our language, and you have not understood it properly. I think I will let you know. Issues are like farmer price, that how they will get a better price. Then one is that key cost of production versus marketing cost, how much is going on, and then MSP should be, government should take a policy and all those things. So that I will share with a note that what we have discussed today. But once again, thank you all for your participations. I am really thankful to the speakers, Mr. Siraj Hussain, former Union Secretary, Minister of Agriculture, Government of India, Professor Ajitabo Rai Chaudhary. Always is a pleasure in working with him, and learned a lot from him today about the basic economics. Mr. Surej Agarwal, Chief Executive Rice Miller, for your deliberations, and of course Dr. Suresh Motwani, General Manager Solidarity, for your 5-point agenda about the status and of the way forward, how you have discussed this thing, and also to the lovely audience, like your ma'am, your data issue, then Suchishmita's about the pesticides pricing and all those things, sir's ECGC's perspective, then farmer agony and problem and how we should go ahead. Amar mone hoy we had a very meaningful, and we will make a everything's in a paper, and we will share with you what has come to this thing. But with all these things, let us have a good evening and pleasure working with you all today. Thank you very much for your kind presence. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.